Your network administration is responsible to make sure the network is functioning properly from both a performance and security perspective. So that's a series of controls. Things they should be doing, of course, are things like monitoring the usage and throughput. If they need to implement load balancing. When it comes to network communications, load balancing might be making sure that I might have multiple servers in the back end that appear as one server, so that the first connection goes to one server, the next connection goes to the next. I could be load balancing traffic as it leaves my network to go to the internet. I may have more than one outbound connection. Load balancing, trying to help scale how much we can handle. We need to know that they respond to security violations, that they have a way of dealing with failure conditions. They should have a method of saving and restoring data, and also planning for the growth of our network. Now we look at our network as a series of performance metrics or measurements to determine how well the network's meeting our organization's needs. The metrics can also determine the capability of being able to support a variety of applications. One important metric for voice over IP is latency. Latency is how long does it take a packet to leave my phone, my handset, and get to your phone. It takes time, right? I mean, there's already time in that electrons and photons can only travel near the speed of light. And as they hop through routers and switches, those machines have to take time to turn that signal into the ones and zeros. It's called serialization. And so, you have this time in there. And if it takes too long, they generally say over 150 milliseconds, then it begins to sound more like a CB radio than a phone. Another issue we have to deal with is throughput. If I'm supplying content, media content, if I'm YouTube, I need to have a lot of throughput so I can have all these millions of people downloading video and watching. We also rate them on errors and drops. That especially is bad for, again, voice and video. And how many retransmissions have to be sent. Because every time I do a retransmission, your TCP connection, let's say you're doing a file transfer, is going to reset itself down to the low levels and slowly renegotiate back up to high speeds again. You might have seen that if you've ever done a large file transfer, and it's telling you how fast that transfer is going, and it's just zipping along at a really high speed, and then suddenly it seems like it just drops to nothing, and it slowly climbs back up again. A lot of that can be from retransmissions, which occur, by the way, because of errors and drops. Some of your other network management issues are, things we see more commonly today anyway, are, the WANs, because they have to communicate with a different type of mixture of local area networks and host network architectures. Now, the good news is, because most organizations are standardizing their telecommunications on the TCP/IP suite, then we have that ability to have the interconnections and the communications. Now, overall, with network management, here's the 5 things that basic tasks that you want to look at when you're managing. Number of faults. You have to deal with configuration management. I mean, in a network, you're dealing with routers and switches. They have configurations. You may make changes to new ones. It might not work. You need to go to the old ones. You need to be able to have accounting resources. Now, I mentioned something like AOL. They used to have a huge accounting resource because they charged you by the minute. Can you believe that? They charged you by the minute of how many minutes of internet access you had. And so they had some great accounting resources to keep track of those connections. It could just be the number of connections, the throughputs, interface statistics. Again, whatever it is you're trying to keep track of as far as the resource. Obviously, performance management goes in there. Latency and throughput are big ones. Security management as well is another area that you have to look at how they're managing it. With your management tools, you should be able to build a number of reports and things to analyze, like response time reports, reports about downtime, especially with a service level agreement. If you've bought an SLA from a service provider, they sometimes guarantee you 4 nines or 5 nines of uptime. Now, technically, if you take the number of seconds in a year and multiply it by the 99.99, 4 nines, there's going to be some remainder left over, and that's how much downtime they're saying they're going to give you at most, right? You want to keep track of that, right? And same thing if you're providing that service to your own customers. We need monitors to determine how long things are online, so we know how often they're offline. Network monitors can watch the traffic going back and forth, get an idea of who the heavy speakers are. We can look at network traffic trends to see if we see signs of overload where we have to maybe add more bandwidth, more links, or change traffic flow patterns. Protocol analyzers to see how the different network devices are talking to each other. The simple network management protocol is used as a way of all of these network devices to be able to report back to a central network management software about the status of things. If they have an interface go down, they can report that to you. If a service has crashed, they can report it. They can tell you how busy their bandwidth utilization is. So they can be proactive, the devices, in sending what they call traps, SNMP traps, to send that information to you. And we can get help desk reports. How many calls of service did we get? What were those calls for? What was the resolution? All of these are tools we use in network management.